Okay, so before we talked about the Pythagorean theorem, so today we're going to talk about the Pythagorean theorem converse. The converse of a statement is when you take the hypothesis of the statement, which is the if part, and you trade it with the conclusion, which is the then part. So for example, right up here, we have our if statement is here. If a triangle has 3 equal sides, that is our hypothesis. And then we have our conclusion that follows that. So if a triangle has 3 equal sides, then our conclusion is it is an equilateral triangle. The converse is when we take that and we swap it up. And so what we would do then is we would take this first part here, take this, and put that on the bottom. I don't know if this is going to work or not. We'll see. So, yeah, that'll do. So, we take this first part, if a triangle has 3 sides, and put that as our if statement. If a triangle has 3 sides, then it is an equilateral triangle. And that's basically all we're doing when we do this, when we take the converse of a statement. We take the hypothesis, the if part, and swap it with the then part. So in the context of what we've been talking about, what that means is we know that if a triangle is a right triangle, if a triangle is a right triangle, then a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So what would be the converse of that? Well, that would be that if a squared plus b squared equals c squared, then it is a right triangle. So the converse can be used to prove whether the triangle is or is not a right triangle, right? So if you're ever wondering, hey, is this triangle a right triangle or not? You can't tell from the picture on the screen. This is how we do it. So taking a look at a couple of examples, in this case, we're given some triangles here, and we want to prove whether or not they are or are not a right triangle. So what we're going to do is we're going to apply the Pythagorean theorem to the information that's given to us and go from there. So we want to know if a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared, right? That's our whole thing. So we'll give each one of these, we'll label each one of these sides. So this looks like it might be a right angle. So we're going to go ahead and call that side, call that one A, and we'll call that one B. Could have been the opposite, but we're choosing this. So a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Is that true? Well, you guys can get out your calculators if you want. 30 squared, that's one side, 30 squared plus 15 squared. Now, if this is true, if this is a right triangle, then that should be equal to 45, right? Because it says that this is a 45-foot side. And if a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared, then this should be c. So 30 squared is 900. And 15, if you're punching these in your calculator, and hopefully you are, that is going to be 225. 225. So when I add those together, 900 plus 225, I'm going to get 1,125. I need to take the square root of that to get c, right? Because this is c squared. Right here, I have c squared. I want c. So in order to get c, I have to take the square root of c squared. I can again punch that in my calculator, square root, the answer, and that's going to give me something like 33.54 ... somewhere around there. So, is this a right triangle? Well, clearly it is not. It is not, because this, if it were a right triangle, would be equal to what? Well, it would be equal to 45. It would have to be equal to this. And it is not. So, no. And we can just put no there. Yeah, good. And that'll do it. So in this part, what we want to do is decide if the side lengths that are given will form a right triangle. But the question that you probably have right now is whether or not these things, which sides are they? If this is my right triangle, I haven't got one, but if this is my right triangle, which side is which? Well, hopefully you will remember something important about the hypotenuse. Hypotenuse is the longest side. So since the hypotenuse is the longest side, I'm going to look through here and I'm going to find out which one is the biggest, and in this case that's 36. So I know that is my hypotenuse. That is my C. Now, which one is A and B? Again, it doesn't matter. They're interchangeable. So I'll make this one A, and I'll make this one B. And I know, again, that A squared plus B squared should equal C squared. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to square 12. 12 squared plus 24 squared should equal 36 squared. And so let's punch in our calculators. 12 squared is 144. And 24 squared is 576. I add those together. I get 720. And so I'll take the square root of that. Square root of 720 is going to be 26.8. So that's going to be C is equal to 26.8. Is that a right triangle? No, it is not, because this should be equal to 36. So is it a right triangle? No, because 12 squared plus 24 squared does not equal 36. All right, everybody's favorite word problems. So Jimmy thinks a window frame in his house looks slanted because the corner doesn't appear to be a 90-degree angle. This is a common problem. Is it really a 90-degree angle in your window? You want to make sure that it is, otherwise your window won't sit inside the frame. His wife disagrees, and they measure the window and found the width to be 25 inches. So here's their window, right? It's roughly a rectangle. We don't have to have it exactly correct, but we'll draw our picture. The width is 25 inches. Whoops, I said, I wrote to a rectangle. I apologize. Oh, it is. Yeah, that's right. 25. And the height to be 36 inches. And the diagonal distance, so the distance from here to here, is 45. So we have, conveniently, we've got two right triangles. We just need to figure out if this angle and this angle and this angle and this angle are all right triangles, then it will be a rectangle. Now, if we know all the side lengths are the same, or rather the opposite side lengths are the same, then we only have to do one triangle to figure it out. So we're going to look at these sides and we're going to say, is A squared plus B squared equal to C squared? And I'm going to use 25 as my A squared, so 25 squared. And I'm going to use 36 because it is the other leg here as my B squared. And if this is a right triangle, right? If Jimmy's wrong, then this is going to be equal to 45, right? So we need to figure that out. I didn't write that properly. B squared is 36 squared. There. And punch that in your calculator. So 25 squared plus 36 squared. So that's going to be 1921, so 1,921. I take the square root of that. It's going to give me roughly 43. So the square root, 1921 of 1,921, is approximately 43.8. That is not 45. So Jimmy's right. His frame is not correct. So who is correct? Jimmy is correct because 25 squared, oops, forgot my E. 25 squared plus 36 squared does not equal 45. Patty wants a triangular garden in her backyard to grow vegetables. She plans to use 3 pieces of edging that measure 7 feet, 10 feet, and 8 feet. Will her garden be in the shape of a right triangle? Well, we can't figure out if it's going to fit or not because we don't know the size of her garden, but we can tell if it's going to be a right triangle. My hypotenuse is going to be the longest one, so that's going to be 10. I can label either one of these as A and B. So I've got 7, 8, and 10 feet. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. We'll say 7 squared will make A 7, will make B 8, and see if it is equal to C squared. So that's 49 plus 64. That's going to be 113, I believe. 49 plus 64. 113 is equal to C squared. So I need to find the square root of both of those. What is the square root of 113? 10.6 something. 10.6 something. So C is approximately 10.6. Is she going to have, rather, let me get this straight. Is it going to be a right triangle? No, it's not. It's not going to be a right triangle. So no, because 7 squared plus 8 squared does not equal 10 squared. The perimeters of the 3 squares are shown below. Could the 3 squares be positioned such that they meet and form a right triangle? And what they're asking is, can I put these guys together in such a way as to get a right triangle? So could I put them together so that they form, each of them, kind of this square on the outside? These are not very good squares, by the way. But that is what it is. We want to know if I can get if I can get this, if that can be a right triangle based on these squares. So for me to know that, I need to find the side lengths of each one of the squares. Well, I know that the sides of a square are all equal. So if the perimeter is equal to 48, that means that all of these added together are going to be 48, which means that 4 times x will be equal to 48. Well, what times 4 is 48? Well, that would be 12. So x is equal to 12. So I know that this side is going to be 12. So I can write that here, 12. And then over here, I've got 140 feet. So again, I need to make this one y, right? So all these sides, all these y's have to add up to give me 140. So 4 times y should equal to 140. So I'm going to divide by 4 on both sides. Y is going to be equal to, and 140 divided by 4 is 35. So that side over here, say it's this one, should be 35. And then this side over here at 148, this probably should be the hypotenuse. So I'm going to back off of that for just a second. So we'll have 148. It's going to be equal to 4 times something. We'll call these z, right? Z, 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 and z. 148 is equal to z. So I need to I'll divide all those sides by 4. 148 divided by 4 is 37. So z then is going to be equal to 37. So I'll take this one to be 35, and then my hypotenuse over here is going to be 37. Is that possible? Will that give us a right triangle? Well, let's see if a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. We'll let the smaller one be a, and we'll let 35 be b. Twelve squared, of course, is 144. 35 squared is 1,225. Altogether, that's going to be 1,369. And so I need to know, if I take the square root, will it give me 37? So the square root of 1,369. Oh, look at that. It is 37. That's pretty crazy. That means that this, in fact, does work. That if this is 12 and this is 35, can they form a right triangle? Yes, they can, because 12 squared plus 35 squared is equal to 37 squared.